Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on our live stream from the Florida School of Massage community. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Christina Polney, and I'm here with Pete Wittridge. And behind the scenes, we have Sarah Thompson and Chrissy Martinez. And I'm so thankful for them because without them, we would not be here. And we just continue to stay motivated and inspired to stay in community with one another and to get creative and find ways to stay in connection through these ongoing extraordinary times that we're having. And of course, we're not at the school still, but rather coming to you from our respective homes. I'm here in Gainesville. Pete is at home in Fort Pierce, and at FSM, we are just so looking forward to resuming classes as soon as we can. And as always, I know we have a variety of listeners from all different backgrounds, and some of you are very familiar with our community. And for those of you who are brand new, I would just like to say welcome and thank you for joining us. And yes, indeed, we are a massage school, and yet it really is so much more than that. Many of our past students and professionals continue to return to Gainesville for continuing education and advanced trainings, and also just to dip into a place of ongoing learning, not only of body work, but also the exploration of our inner world through this vehicle of touch, awareness, and communication, both verbal and nonverbal. And we are still working from home, and we have really been looking forward to being together. So Pete Wittridge, for those of you that don't know him, has been a licensed massage therapist since 1988. He teaches myofascial components of pain workshops throughout the Southeast and also throughout the country, as well as Florida law, ethics, and business building classes. And Pete's also completed a 4-year term on the Florida Board of Massage, serving 2 years as chairman. And he's a faculty member of several massage schools around the country and also a frequent speaker for FSMTA chapter meetings, as well as the AMTA and FCA conventions. And Pete has also received the Charles Canfield Award from the FSMTA in 2004 for service and dedication to the massage profession. He was inducted into the Massage Hall of Fame in 2016 at the World Massage Festival. And he's also a founder and past president of the Alliance for Massage Therapy Education, and has really dedicated a lot of his career to helping establish high standards in massage therapy education. So we're going to have about an hour to talk to Pete, who's a longtime leader in our profession, and talk about current affairs for massage therapists and the latest updates on continuing education in Florida for LMTs and other topics. And as always, we'll reserve time for your questions and comments towards the last 15 minutes or so. And I know you're either joining us on Facebook or YouTube, so just go ahead and keep typing your questions and comments into the chat, and it's our goal to interact with as many of you as we can. And Sarah and Chrissy will be monitoring those for us. And if you're joining us on YouTube, you can go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel by hitting the red button below. You can also remember to hit the notification button to get a reminder. And for those of you on Facebook, you can just like this video and follow us there. So again, my name is Christina, and it's wonderful to be joined by you, Pete. And now I know you've been a part of our massage school history for many years. So many of our instructors and administrators have trained with you, both in our professional training program and also in your continuing education workshops. And I know we have some listeners who may be brand new to the Florida School of Massage community, and of course, some people know you very well. So before we move into our discussion, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background and what originally inspired you to study massage all those years ago, and of course, how you ended up in Gainesville at the Florida School of Massage.
Well, Christina, I'm so thankful to be here. Chrissy and Sarah T, I'm really so appreciative of your support. We got to be together on Tuesday. It's just a joy to be here. And Christina, you and I have such long-time friends. I'm so thrilled to do this with you. You're such a natural, and you've been just doing such a beautiful job. I've watched you do this. And
Thank you, Pete. I just want to say a quick hello to Bonnie and Mark and Bunny, who are joining us. Go ahead.
Beautiful. And I think your question really was about, how did I get into massage and those pieces. And I got my very first massage when I was 17 years old. I was a whitewater raft guide, and my mom lived in Santa Fe, and she purchased a massage for me, an hour-and-a-half massage out on Canyon Road, and it just changed my body. It really helped me become more embodied. So I want to thank you, Mom.
Aww.
She's not here.
Aw, thanks, Maura. Thanks, Mrs. Wittridge.
The other thing that happened is when I was a whitewater raft guide, there was a woman who worked for us who was a graduate of the Florida School of Massage. And she was available to do massage treatments after work or on days off. And so I took advantage of that when I was a raft guide. We would work 7 or 8 days in a row and get sore and have all kinds of aches and pains. And so I would go and get treatments. And it was just such a helpful thing for my body, really connected me with the parts of me that I was overusing and really helped. So when I stopped being a raft guard and I moved from Santa Fe and Taos, New Mexico to Florida, people would say to me, well, what are you going to do in Florida? And my natural response was, well, there's this place called the Florida School of Massage I thought I might go check out. Never been there, never been to Gainesville, but I just figured since we were moving to Florida that would be a good thing to do. And we moved to New Smyrna Beach, which is a few hours from Gainesville. And I started working. I actually was a chef in college and things like that. So I was really earning money and realizing that as a chef, I couldn't do that. It's a very debilitating, not a healthy environment to be a chef. And so I really looked at, I was probably 24, 25 years old, and I really looked at, what do I want to do? What do I want to do in my life? And I did a little career counseling. I have a degree in history and political science, and the person who was counseling me said, well, you've been a CPR teacher, you've been a first aid teacher, teaching is something that you could do, and here in Volusia County, we need teachers, substitute teachers, and so she directed me to go and get my teacher certificate from the state. So I thought that was a really a good path for me. I thought maybe I would teach in the high school or middle school. Of course, in New Smyrna, there's a wonderful high school, and I started substitute teaching, and I'm much shorter than most of the football players and the basketball players, so school teacher didn't really work out well for me. I found that the middle school was my perfect location because I'm really mostly a child, so being with children is really helpful. and most of them aren't taller than me, so I can't be intimidated by the defensive back from the football team. So being a substitute teacher gave me lots of preparation. I've been a teacher in a variety of different ways, but being a middle school teacher teaches you that, if you just are present, you can pretty much get through anything. And so after working in food service and being a substitute teacher, I kept saying, well, what do I really want to do? And it kept coming up that I should go up to Gainesville and to see what the massage school was like. We actually looked at another massage school called the Reese Institute in Orlando, because that's a little bit closer, and we came to Gainesville. We actually chose not to go to the Reese Institute for a variety of reasons. One day, if you're with me in a class, I can tell you that story a little bit. But the magic really happened when I came to Gainesville on a Saturday, and Paul Davenport was actually in his office, and I met Charlotte Loomis, and Paul and I hit it off like two little peas in a pod. We'd both been to the same Grateful Dead concerts and different things at times, so I felt like I found a home. My process of getting to massage school was getting a massage and then receiving massage on a somewhat regular basis, and then coming to Florida and having that opportunity to be and spend time at the school. And then, of course, coming to school was its own adventure. We traded our house in New Smyrna for a house on the Swanee River. And for you know Gainesville, the Swanee River is about an hour away, and so every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, I would get up and drive the car into the sun, and then after school, I was on the work study team, so I would vacuum and clean and do different things, and then Lee would stop working, and we would head into the sun to go home. So it was quite an adventure. We were there in the summer program. 500-hour program, and I graduated in October. So for me, coming to massage school was a plan that really came from being a whitewater raft guide, but I'd also had a background as an EMT and a CPR and first aid instructor. So when I came to school and Paul started teaching us about muscles and bones, those were the things that I had already grasped. So it was very fun for me to be in class and to have that experience of somebody who was a good teacher, a great teacher. And so then when we went through massage school, back before we actually had clinics or any of those kinds of things, my job was really to find new clients and be able to do that. And I worked a variety of places around the town, Gainesville, BJ's Dimensions 4, which was a hair salon. I worked in the clinic at the massage school. And so for me, coming into massage I came back to myself. And I think that's really a great way to say it.
That's wonderful. And all these years later, your career now spans 32 years. You're still in private practice. You're a teacher. You teach massage and have many professional organizations that you've been involved in over the years as well. The Board of Massage, the FSMTA, the AMTA, COMTA, the Massage Therapy Alliance, just to name a few. And maybe you could share with our listeners, like, what has inspired you all these years to be so active in our professional organizations? And maybe for some of our listeners who are less familiar with them, you could also give us the full name of those organizations I just rattled off.
Sure. Yeah, I always think that massage is a group of acronyms, and nobody ever knows what this group is or what that group is. So I'll keep it simple. But I think the most important thing that came for me when I was at the school, and I was actually doing some work study at the school. I was involved. You had Ben Benjamin on, and he was very involved with some extra training at the school with Josie Davenport and Michael Loomis, and I was asked to help to do some paperwork for financial aid and to get VA funding. So I had some kind of administrative skills that I brought, and that kind of opened my eyes to some of the things that go on behind the scenes when you have a school or a company. And Paul and I had talked, and he really didn't like going to board meetings. He thought that was kind of crazy and, like odd. And I said, well, I like that. He's like, oh, please go to the board meetings. And not only did he have me go to the board meetings, but he also we used to have a practical exam. I think some of you on the call here had taken a practical exam, and so we would do a review week. And so we always had teachers and owners from massage schools at the testing center to support students. And my job, we all had little jobs. My friend Iris Berman did meditation with the students before the test. I provided everyone with a pencil because you're supposed to pencils, and of course people would forget. So
is this pre-internet, Pete?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So through those experiences of being at the board and the board meeting, I learned about the FSMTA, the Florida State Massage Therapy Association. And this is a local group that does lobbying with the legislature and the board. And so I really realized, like, oh, this is real. I could get involved and be part of a chapter. My friend Laurel Freeman, Jackie Ferber, a few of us started to reactivate the local chapter of the FSMTA. You can still go to meetings in Gainesville right up to this time, and I would encourage you to do that. And I became a secretary and became the president, and I got so involved with the FSMTA that I became the legislative chair for the FSMTA. And of course, this was again back before the internet, so we were using fax machines to do broadcast fax about what we do for our issues. So becoming a leader in the organization gave me some ideas of how important it is to help my own profession. And then I went to Miami, and I went to the national organization, the AMTA, the American Massage Therapy Association. And this was in 1990. And I had the opportunity to meet national school owners, people from Maine, people from California, people from New Mexico. And what really opened my eyes was, like, everybody has these different ideas about what their massage school is. Not one is better than another, but this is our philosophy. And I feel like I could represent our philosophy of personal growth and awareness to a bigger audience. And so through that, I also learned about accreditation, which is what the school is. Florida School of Massage has been an accredited school since 1997. I was the project manager for that. And so accreditation for me wasn't about the financial aid or the working with the federal government for that. It was really about peer review, that we would have people come in, review our program, see what we're doing for our standards, and then give us feedback about that. And so that's what I chose to put my energy towards. And when we became accredited, we didn't activate federal funds for quite a few years. It was really just a choice to be representing high standards in the field. Good teachers, good curriculum, wonderful facilities, helping the students become more embodied.
And that continued with the Massage Therapy Alliance, right?
Yes. And so from my time in CompTA, I saw that there was a time kind of in the late 90s, really, where we started to get a lot of schools. There was close to 1,800 schools. And we knew within the Council of Schools that there probably weren't enough qualified teachers. It's one thing to be a teacher, but it's also one thing to have gone through a teacher training and have feedback and have support.
Sure.
And I knew there were a lot of people out there who were given a program. Here's your books, here's your outlines, here's your PowerPoints. Go ahead and teach, and we'll help you pick up the pieces when you've sunk or swum. And so many of us within the Council of Schools didn't feel like that was a best practice. So I had the opportunity to become a founding member of what's called the Alliance for Massage Therapy Education. We started that in 2009. I became the president in 2010, and I served as the president for 5 years. I am still involved with committees, and in the resources, I actually put in the guidelines that the Alliance has just created for classrooms and CE providers regarding. So my interest in teaching, I started as a teacher in CPR, taught CPR, taught anatomy, continued to be a business teacher all through these years. And so part of what I would always bring to all of my accreditation stories was, a classroom teacher. But I was also involved with the management, or we could look at the financials as well. I had training in that. The other organization the other organization that I think is really helpful and so important in our field is the Massage Therapy Foundation.
Uh-huh.
So that's where I spend a lot of my time as well.
Yeah.
The education committee has provided a lot of things for teachers, helping people become more knowledgeable about the current research. And my biggest, I think that the thing I feel the proudest about when working with the foundation is we worked with the Department of Defense and the Samueli Institute, and we did a review of the evidence for pain, working with massage and pain. And the Department of Defense really wanted to use massage therapy and have massage therapists on the basis,
Yeah.
and in the VA. And they couldn't do that until they'd done this kind of study that said, yes, massage could be effective or could be more effective than doing some kind of pain medications. And so that really has been a big change. 2014 we did that. By last year we were at a conference for the Massage Therapy Foundation, and there's probably 15 or 20 VAs that now have massage. Massage is actually a paid position. It has a ranking and has all kinds of job descriptions, and that had never happened before. So I feel very happy about that, because once the Department of Defense takes something on, that usually then affects Medicare.
Right.
And then once we are into kinds of schedules, then massage will be something that people would be able to get some kind of prescriptions for.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I think sometimes, for those of us who are just out there practicing, we don't realize all the work that's going on behind the scenes, like the legislative work and protecting the interests of massage therapists and the public and getting these services going. Of course, research to support that is always a very useful and necessary endeavor. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So our topic today is current affairs for massage therapists, and you just have virtually attended the Florida Board of Massage quarterly meeting, right? So why don't we start our conversation with the new continuing education requirement for this renewal in particular, which is the human trafficking awareness. Why don't you tell us about that? Because
Sure.
I think even though we've heard about it, we've received emails about it, I don't think we're used to this new requirement, and I think a lot of our listeners might not be aware of when that requirement is due by. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we have this opportunity to do this now, so that we have the 6-month period that people who are involved with this and spreading the word that this will be a requirement is so helpful. So in the 2019 legislative process, there was a bill that came out that was addressing human trafficking and in healthcare. And a lot of it had to do with helping nurses and doctors and various healthcare practitioners be able to identify the signs and symptoms of if someone is being trafficked. So that's a big issue. And then I have to acknowledge, within the massage field, there are a lot of what people term Asian massage locations, or some kind of derogatory term, and there are some people who believe that there are locations where people are being trafficked to perform the massages for people, and then aren't able to go home to a home, don't have their documents, and then are brought back into the massage location and work again. We see this, and so the massage board has been part of this rule, and as part of the statute making, the board has put out some standards so that when you take this class, that it actually applies to you as a massage therapist, because it is very specific to us. So we will take a class. It can be an hour. It could be a couple of hours. You will find those on the CE broker system. There are 4 to 7 of them that are currently approved by the board office, and you can take them somewhere between $10 and $15. This is done by January 1st, 2021.
So meaning we all have to have that complete by January 1st.
Yeah, so this will be outside of 2021. This will be outside of our renewal time, which is August 31st, 2021. And I have talked with the board office, and they don't want to make this a discipline issue. Like, if you haven't taken the class, their intention is not to come through and fine you $250 because you haven't taken this class.
Okay.
What we do is to do a promotional piece that everyone needs to do this. You'll be reminded multiple times by email that these are some classes that you can take through the CE broker system. It should be very specific to massage and human trafficking. So there are classes out there that meet the general requirement that won't meet the requirement within the CE broker system if it's marked as general. It will have to say human trafficking.
Okay, so the best thing for people to do would be to go to CE Broker and look for human trafficking awareness. Is that the title?
Yes.
Okay.
And there are at least 4, I know there may be even up to 7 that have been approved so far.
Okay.
I'm not going to promote a particular one. I don't even feel qualified to teach the class. That's how specific the classes are. And there are other CE providers who've acknowledged to me the same. You know, I could put together a class, but it would never have the impact. I did this class with the FSMTA, the Florida State Massage Therapy Association, provided it to us as members, and the woman who came and talked to us, I learned so much. But it's so upsetting what human trafficking is, and the board executive director and Jerry Nelson, who is the board staff head of the staff there, what they both say is, if we can just stop one person from being trafficked, we've done a good job. And
yeah,
I'm sorry that we have to take it kind of out of our renewal cycle, but it will be required, and you will need to do it by January 1st. So you have about 6 months, and I think that will be an important piece to take care of.
That's great. And there's a couple other components to the human trafficking rule, right?
Yes. So there is a sign that you will be required to put into your office, your establishment. It needs to be visible to the public. We're going to do a little screen share it a little bit later so I can show you what that sign really looks like. It has a certain language. It's also in Spanish. There are also Mandarin and Creole versions, depending on your population where you are. And the most important aspect of that is that sign needs to be up by those dates. And you also then need to designate a establishment manager. That's something that many of you who have establishments probably have received some paperwork from the board asking you to designate a provider. And I've got a form here somewhere that I'll pull up. And essentially, you would designate a licensed massage therapist who has a clear and active license to be the person responsible for dealing with and making sure that the establishment is meeting all of the rules of the board, and then specifically in terms of the human trafficking, that you have had the hours, that you have the signage, and that you're in compliance and have a policy around reporting.
Okay, so that's every person who has an establishment license, right?
Yes.
Has to have a designated manager.
Yes. So there are establishments that are owned by companies. So are not massage therapists. So they're going to have someone within their company be their we call it a DEM.
Designated manager.
Establishment manager.
Got it.
So that person is a licensed therapist. Hopefully, and again, this has been an issue within our field, so part of the process is to to allow the inspectors to know who the DEM is. That will be part of the records. And then when the inspector comes, the DEM will be expected to provide the documentation of the policy and the people who are working there, and being sure that they all have photos and their correct licensure and things like that.
Okay, got it. So the three components are having a designated establishment manager, having a poster posted in the establishment, and then that all licensed massage therapists do the 1-hour continuing education class called Human Trafficking Awareness.
That's right. And the one thing I would add to what you just said, Christina, last night when I was listening to the FSMTA, I got my 2 hours of law last night with the FSMTA. Kama, who is the executive director, also reminded us that we have to be able to share what our policy would be if we experienced or had some idea that there was some human trafficking going on.
Okay.
And so that would be just something to think about in your own office. If you're a single owner, it's not going to be the same requirement. You know,
Sure.
you're going to train yourself, you're going to do all those things. But
Right.
there are lots of places that have multiple therapists.
Sure. And I understand there's been some changes too to the breakdown of the 24 hours of the required continuing education. So I know that every 2 years, everyone's always like, okay, we have to do 24 now. What's the breakdown? So if you could just go over that again, I'm sure it'd be helpful to our listeners.
And especially because this human trafficking plays into a required class now.
Right, exactly.
So I'm going to start by saying we need 24. Okay?
Total of 24, yeah.
Each month that you've been licensed. So this is different if you're an initial license. So we can put that aside for the moment.
Okay.
24. And in the rule from the board, you have to do 12 hours of hands-on work in a classroom with an instructor. That's part of the rule. And then you have 12 other hours that can be done by what I consider distance learning. You can do them live if you wish. I teach live law class, live ethics class, but people can have half of their hours as a distance learning. Of those 12, 6 of them are already taken up, right? We have to do 2 hours of law, 2 hours of ethics, and 2 hours of prevention of medical errors. So that's 6. So 6 out of the 12. And now, because of this new renewal, we need to do 1 of human trafficking. So then we have 7 required hours, and then 7 minus 12, or 12 minus 7 is 5. So you have 5 hours
to play with.
Other, and other can be massage. You can do all your hours in massage. That would be perfectly legitimate. But you could also do them in business risk management, or some insurance billing, client therapist engagement, ethics classes, things like that. So there's 5 hours that you have some flexibility in, and then of course the 12 live hours you have whatever flexibility that you'd like there, what kind of treatments, what kind of learning you'd like to do. What I always also recommend is don't just shoot for the 24. You can get more than 24. It's okay.
Right. So I understand. Thank you. That was very clear. So I understand there's also been an extension of the temporary emergency online learning rule. And I know, for example, FSM is following the changes closely and considering the safety of students and staff as we all try to adapt. And FSM is currently exploring a hybrid model and understanding all the regulatory agencies and their parameters that we're beholden to for our September program. And I also think that for this renewal now, we can also do our continuing education online for this renewal only. So maybe you could speak to those two temporary emergency rulings.
Sure. So there's 2 things that you were talking about. One is the massage school education, and one is continuing education for licensure renewal.
Right.
So let's stick with the licensure renewal for the moment.
Okay.
And on Friday of the board meeting, and it was a 12-hour board meeting, so I was on the phone for 12 hours. I would rather be in person at that kind of meeting, but
sure.
The board, as well as all of the Department of Health professions, have been allowed to, for this biennium only, be able to receive all continuing education by distance learning.
Okay.
So a blanket proviso went into the rule for continuing education for massage therapists that said for the 2019 to 2021 renewal period, due to the COVID, you can take your CEs by distance learning. It's not requiring you that you take it by distance learning. It's just saying you can. There are many people who are signed up for classes even out into June next year because they're planning their lives. And so I would never say to somebody, don't take a live class, but be prepared. I think I've got something coming up in October in Sarasota and I think Gainesville. I'm hoping to do those classes, but the way it looks in the world right now, I couldn't expect to have somebody come to a class when it seems so antithetical to healthcare and health and wellness.
So that's great. That means we actually have both options right now. So if we want to be done ahead of time and are interested in doing our continuing education now and don't have in-person classes available, depending on where we live, then it would be okay to currently do all 24 of our requirements online.
That's right.
And we are still allowed to be in wait and see mode, and perhaps later in the year or even early next year, when things are hopefully different in the COVID-19 pandemic, then we still have time to take in-person classes if that would be our preferred mode of learning.
Yes, that's exactly right, Christina.
Okay.
And there are a lot of resources right now, and you see a lot of people doing Zoom classes and all kinds of things. Take advantage of those if that works into your schedule. I would also remind you that the ABMP, which is the Associated Bodywork and Massage Professionals, if you're a member, have thousands of hours of continuing education, couple hours at a time that you could do at your own time. AMTA has the same thing, and there are a lot of different providers that have set themselves up to do distance learning like this, Zoom times, things like that. So
it's really great.
At some other time.
I know one of the things that's been this is the feedback we get from students, is that one of the fun things about continuing education is being together again in a classroom environment with a group of massage therapists, because so many of us work in isolation. We're in our own little bubbles doing our practice, and it's so nice to be back in the classroom and interacting. So I'm staying optimistic that next year there'll be some opportunity for that, and I myself will be scheduling my year next year with optimism and hope.
Yes, and what I love too, Christina, about that is that there are people who are newer therapists who meet more mature therapists that then have this lineage connection.
Yes, that's a really good point.
Classes. And when I taught for the national convention in Indianapolis in October, I brought up all the 25 and plus massage therapists, the 25 years that they've been practicing, and I brought them all up to the front of the room, and we had 25 of them, and it was a class of 100, and we clapped for them.
That's so great, yeah.
Because really, then when you have an elder population, that elder population then can help teach the younger population what it's like to be here.
Absolutely.
And to Ben Yvonne, and he says, I've been practicing for 45 years, and
I know.
I've been practicing for 58 years. I feel inspired.
Yes, indeed. It's so true. So true. And so the other part of the temporary emergency ruling is that massage schools can continue to operate online.
Yes, and this was done on Thursday. The board did this as an emergency rule, and what this did is it extended the rule that they created in June or May, and so all massage schools are authorized to provide a variety of hours by distance learning outside of the classroom. It looks to me about a little close to half of a 500-hour program. Close to 270 hours can be done outside of the classroom, and that will keep going into effect and stay into effect till March 2022. So schools are modifying how they are interacting with the students.
Yeah.
I think this is a wonderful opportunity for schools, as massage schools, who are always dependent upon somebody standing in front of you to be your teacher.
Yeah.
To so modify to say, well, what really is education? What really is a classroom? And what is learning? Because everyone, as a learner, can learn different ways. And so when we challenge the teachers, well, how could you do this by not having a class of people right in front of you? You know, changes how you interact with them. And I did a business class for 20 hours for my Asheville School of Massage people. We were going to go up and have a live class, and then the travel restrictions happened, and it was really a beautiful experience because we used Zoom, and we had Zoom rooms that I could send them in, and they could have small conversations with each other, and they hadn't seen each other in a few weeks. You know, had been, isolation, all that stuff. So I would just let them be in a room, and I give them a topic to talk about, and this is what I want you to come back and share with the group, and this is what learning can look like, even at we're not touching each other, but we're really juicy in the heart. And I hope that some of you have read my poem, because when I finished up with that class, I just had to write a poem.
So sweet. Well, maybe we could include that poem in the show notes too.
Sure.
And also, for those of you that may not know, Pete is actually teaching online as well. He already has some classes. He's teaching professional ethics, prevention of medical errors. That's already online. And I think your massage law and rules will be coming soon, right? Because you're updating it based on what happened at the board meeting.
Yeah.
And then also, for those of you that are interested in the massage school schedule and professional training program, you can always visit our website too, where you can connect with us live on a phone call, and then we can share everything that's coming in September and then in our January 2021 program as well, because things are changing and we're adapting on a daily basis. So we'd love to hear from you if you're interested. Now, Pete, of course the time is flying, but I have a few more questions that I want to cover before we go to our, before we check in with Sarah. So can you explain for LMTs with establishment license 2 the new rule about what happens if you go delinquent with your establishment license? Because that's kind of important too.
Yes, and so this is something that I think is really valuable, and it has a little bit to do with the human trafficking, but I also think it's helpful for you as an establishment owner if there's other establishments around you. So the new statute put language in that if your massage establishment license goes delinquent, which would be September 1st, 2021, and it goes 6 months in delinquency, when we get to 6 months and a day, the board office can make your license go null and void because you haven't renewed it. Whereas in the past, a delinquent license would continue on until an inspector came in and realized that you were delinquent. Then you'd get a cease and desist order, a fine, a citation, or go through a whole administrative complaint process, which could leave the place open for almost 18 months, 2 years, doing something that's illegal.
Okay, so the message is don't miss that August 31, 2021 deadline if you have an establishment license, right?
Right, and if other establishments around you appear delinquent, know that they may not end up having a license, and that may eliminate some of the problem in your area. And I'm thinking about places like Tampa or big cities like Miami, where there's a lot of what people call Asian massage. I can't use a different word. I don't know what to
Sure.
use. That's
Yeah. Okay, so before we go to Sarah and questions from our listeners, I know that you had a few things, Pete, that you wanted to show us on your screen. So why don't we go ahead to our screen sharing moment right now? So I know there were a few things that you wanted to share with people. And then we'll have Sarah standing by. And if you do have questions, type them into the chat now. So just give us a second here and we'll try to go into screen sharing mode.
all right.
There we go.
I imagine you're seeing is the Board of Massage website. Is that correct, Christina?
Yep.
Okay, so I just want you to be sure that you have gone to the Florida Board of Massage website. You'll be coming back to this when you get ready to do your renewal, because there's a renewal button here. The main thing I wanted to show you, though, was this human trafficking website. You'll notice that the web address is floridahealthsource.gov/human trafficking, and this will give you all of the information about the signage and the signs and what's in it, the classes that you need to take, what happens for massage establishments, especially the DEM. So I just wanted you to have that page so that you can see that.
Great. And I just want to mention again, we'll put this all in the show notes for those of you listening. So if you're trying to scribble down the address, don't worry, it'll be in the replay notes. Go ahead, continue. Sorry, Pete.
That's perfectly fine. And then the only other thing I wanted to show you was there is always question, because we're kind of in a mixed cycle about fingerprint retention. And so many of you did the original fingerprinting, and then 5 years came by and you got a notification that you needed to renew your fingerprints.
Right.
There's a very specific website, which is again part of the floridahealthsource.gov.
Okay.
And it has information about the fingerprint retention. And it's very simple. You're going to pay $43 to have your fingerprints retained. There are people on the call here who weren't in the original group who now are going to be rolling. 5 years has come up now, and next year another 5-year group will come up. So this is just something that I want people to be aware of. And really that's pretty much what I wanted to share. I think the only last thing, and this just came out last night, and because I'm the past president of the Alliance, I really felt like I wanted to just share this.
Okay. And is this a document that has recommendations in it, it looks like?
Yes, this is a document that has recommendations for teachers and schools and CE providers.
Oh, great, great. So we'll have a link to that in the show notes as well.
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead and call in Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Can you hear us?
I can, yeah. Can you hear me?
We sure can, yes.
Awesome. Well, I think you've done a really great job at answering many of the questions that we've had pop up. And there is a question I'm seeing about, so the live hours that can count for if you do the hours online, does that need to be a live webinar or any online class, even if it's recorded? Would that count?
Yes, I think this is really the great reason that we're doing this. So the 12 hours that we used to call in live, hands-on, in classroom, they can be any method that works for you in this biennium. So it could be a live webinar that someone is doing. I have a couple of continuing education provider friends who are doing live webinars and then recording that. So you could attend the live, or you could get the recording and get the hours from the recording.
Great.
Awesome, thank you. And so is the human trafficking requirement, is that just for Florida, or do you know if that is for other states as well?
Yeah, so this is something that many of you know what the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards is because you took the MBLEX exam. The Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards is very much working with human trafficking in all of the states. This is very specific to Florida only at this time. These classes, you may have to do something if you're multi-licensed or dual licensed, that you might have to do a different type of human trafficking class for that state. I'm hoping, and this will be controversial, but I'm hoping that this will be a one-time class requirement instead of a every 2-year class requirement.
More on that later, right?
Yeah, that could be controversial.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds great. And so there's been other questions also about the poster that needs to be hung. And so I'm imagining, is that all on the website that you showed us? Like the language that needs to be on there? Or how do I get that sign?
Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen again. And did it share? Mm-hmm. Yeah, here we go. And so we are on the human trafficking site, and the sign has very specific wording. So I just clicked the link so that the sign would come up. Okay. And if you printed this sign out and just on an 8x10, it won't be the right size. So you'll need to take this file and bring it to a copy center.
Yeah.
And tell them the size that it needs to be, which is on the website, and then have that up on your thing. And it says it's 11 by 15 inches, at least 32 point type. So everything you need to know about the human trafficking requirement is on this human trafficking page. And there is a good FAQ. And so I just really want you all to, that's one of the big reasons we're doing this, is so that you get this. Mm-hmm. So I'm done with that.
Okay, what next, Sarah? Anything?
Yes, there we go. So I think next we would ask, so what about, you mentioned like the brand new licensees would be a little bit different. Could you go back and talk about that piece?
Beautiful. So for the new licensees, it is assumed that you've gone through a variety of classes, but the new licensees will need to do this human trafficking class, and then you're going to be doing 1 hour per month of licensure. So if someone was licensed in September of 2020, they would need October, November, December plus 12 or plus 8, right? So you need like 12 or 14 hours. And in your first renewal, you can pretty much do any kind of CE you would like, but you will need to take a medical errors class, and you need to take the prevention of the human trafficking awareness. Okay, so it's a little different just because of the number of months that each person has been licensed. So if you've been licensed 20 months, you need 20 CEs with a couple of requireds. If you've been licensed 6 months, you only need 6 hours, but you still have to have certain requirements.
Thanks for that clarification. The last question that I'm seeing on my side would be, so could you speak a little bit to what would be the benefits of getting involved in the professional organization, and how do I do that?
Beautiful. And so for me, the benefits have been that it has really expanded my horizons. I have met and interacted and spent time with people like Ben Benjamin, Cherise Sonnen-Moe, Ruth Warner, Whitney Lowe. As a volunteer, they are volunteering their time on the Massage Foundation or the Alliance, and the relationships that I have are so fun when we see each other again and we have some dinner together and we try to solve the problems of the world. So to me, it's expanding my relationship tree. I also learn a lot from being a volunteer. I kind of get an idea of what's happening behind the scenes. I feel lucky that Lee and I chose not to have children, so I use my time to volunteer to go to the food bank. Like, I don't think you have to just do professional organization volunteering. You can do something in your local community that may have even more meaning to you. Because really what we're trying to do here is help people see beyond themselves, right? It's a bigger picture. And when you see the bigger picture, then you actually have a sense of your own internal being. We were delivering food yesterday in Port St. Lucie, and the humbleness that people come to the door and receive a box of food. It's pretty moving.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Pete. And if somebody wants to get involved in a professional organization, do you recommend they just go to their website, figure out how to volunteer? Most websites have a way to contact them and volunteer, right?
Yes. So locally, like if you're going to be part of the FSMTA, you would go to your local chapter. And I know many of the people who are volunteers would love to have you come and volunteer just to help set up tables or do something simple like bring some food. And each organization, whether it's the AMTA or the FSMTA or the Alliance, we depend on new people coming into the organization to bring new perspectives. A lot of us are elders in the field, and we need to replace ourselves. So we're looking for people who really want and are interested in learning, because that's really what it's about.
So Pete, I do have one final question for you too. I know we're almost out of time, but one of the things we always talk about at the Florida School of Massage, and we've been asking all of our professionals who have joined us on this live stream, and that is the question, like, what does it mean for you to live life on your own terms, and how did you embody that even more after your time as a student at the Florida School of Massage?
I love this question, and I'm so happy to share. I think I've always been a little different, so I never thought I would ever work into the corporate world. In 7th grade, they taught us how to read the New York Times and fold it so that you could read it on the subway. And I knew, like in 7th grade, that was not going to be good for me. So coming to massage school and learning about myself, my psyche, my spirit, just grew from all of that. And also, many of you know that I stopped drinking about a year before massage school. So I had come to school sober as well. So that was a learning. And so my now 33 years of sober.
Congratulations.
So, I can say massage school saved my life. I can say that. I would also say that, living my life on my own terms means freedom. It means financial independence. It means having work that has meaning. It helps me develop a sense of wonder and awe. And when I work with someone and I'm in a room for an hour or 20 minutes, I learn more about them. And then that helps me have more compassion and more. So I see my job as a massage therapist as someone who, spends some quiet time paying attention to someone and giving them my presence, not my ideas, my presence. And that's what I feel like. How do I live life on my terms? I feel most at home in the massage room. I'm an introvert, but I also go out and teach. So to me, I get to ground in my massage room, and I miss my massage room so much.
Oh, yeah. So many of us are missing our massage rooms at the moment. Well, Pete, I want to thank you so much for joining us. And, I have to say, over all these years, I don't know anyone who has volunteered more in service to our profession than you, Pete. So thank you for that. And I just want to say to everyone listening, if you have questions for Pete or are interested in his online classes or maybe in-person classes into the future, you can contact him at justaskpete@mac.com or call him at 772-332-6116. And we'll have all of that in the show notes. And his website is whitteridgewellness.com. And you'll find that all in the notes. So if you enjoyed your time with us today, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting that subscribe button below. You can also hit the like button and share it with your friends. And you can also click on the notifications buttons to get reminders. You can also follow us and like this video on Facebook. And if you'd like to learn more about our school, you can visit our website at floridaschoolofmassage.com. You can register for our live stream and also to receive our newsletter. You can contact us there and we'd be happy to connect with you and share more information and keep you informed about not only what's happening in September, but also in January 2021, and even set up a live call so that we can see you. And we're actually having virtual open houses, believe it or not. And we'll do our next live stream on Thursday, August 6th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I hope you can join us. And we'll share more about that and who's going to be with us next in our August newsletter, which if you don't already receive that, you can sign up for that on our website. And thank you again, Pete and Chrissy and Sarah T, for all your behind the scenes support. And it's been such a joy to be together again. And so until next time, stay safe, be good to yourselves, and be good to one another. Bye for now.
Take care, everyone.